Welcome back to the Health Revival Show. Today we have Tia Slightham, and she is the go to parenting coach for high achieving moms ready to ditch the yelling, guilt, and chaos. When we got this email in our inbox, I forwarded to Becca and I said, "It's me, it's us. We need this conversation ourselves." So I hope that this resonates with you all today, too. She has an amazing Instagram and so many free things that you can go and connect and join and find support. We know that motherhood is hard, and I love one of the things that you say just about, turning the struggle into connection, right? But not having to rely on bribing timeouts and then ultimately becoming burnt out. So, if you guys are listening to this, go follow her on Instagram. Links are in the show notes. Rate, review, subscribe, share the show. Other moms need this, I'm sure, just as much as we do today. So, welcome, Tia. I'm really excited for our conversation today. We'll just let you have the floor to tell our listeners a little bit about you, how you got into this, why you're so passionate about this work.
Yeah, thank you, Liz and Becca, for having me on. I'm so excited. The more parents we can reach, the better. I'm a mom to two teen boys myself. I am living it daily, and parents really do need support. We're busy balancing all of the things, and I really appreciate all that you guys are doing for the listeners, for the parents who are, and the moms who are out there trying to be their best version with their health and their wellness. And then you throw parenting on top of that. So I really appreciate all you guys are doing for parents and moms as well. And I did leave you guys an awesome 5-star rating review because, as a perimenopausal mom myself, it's nice to have a go to spot to listen to so much. I have thyroid disease and I love hearing all of the things that you guys offer. So, everybody else, go leave a review, see my review, so that we can reach more parents and more, women and moms in need of all those things. So, thank you. But I'm super excited to chat with you about parenting because it's one of those things that's not a learned skill. I mean, it's not intuitive, excuse me. It's truly a learned skill. Just like our health and wellness, we need to learn how to do these things. And so often parents are blaming themselves. They're high achieving moms who are doing so much and they're succeeding everywhere. And then they feel like they're failing at motherhood because they're ending their day yelling or screaming, feeling like they can't get their kids to listen. And they don't understand why they can't figure it out. The truth is, nobody's just figuring it out. You're not alone. It truly is a learned skill. So I hope that we can offer your listeners some really amazing skills today that they can start implementing right away.
All right, if you're dealing with water retention, you're waking up puffy, your ankles or your wrists are really swollen, or you can't get your rings off, and maybe you're even dragging throughout the day, no matter how much water you drink, there's actually a good chance that you're not actually hydrating properly.
Exactly, because water alone is not enough. You need electrolytes, you need sodium, potassium, magnesium, because those things actually pull water into your cells. Otherwise, you're basically just flushing it out and wondering why you're still tired, you're still bloated, and you're still sluggish.
But here's the thing, most electrolyte supplements out there aren't helping you in any way because a lot of them contain things like natural flavors, food dyes, and maltodextrin, which can irritate your gut. And these things can also spike your blood sugar when you're trying to heal.
That's why we both started using Buoy. It's super simple, just trace minerals and electrolytes in liquid form. No flavors, no colors, no sugar, no sweeteners, and you squeeze it into whatever you are drinking. Water, coffee, tea, smoothies, you name it.
And it's clinically backed by science too. So studies have shown that Buoy helps you hydrate better, 64% better in fact, and that's data coming from key blood and urinary markers, not just marketing fluff. And honestly, you can feel the difference. I've had many clients tell me their digestion's improved, they have less headaches, and they're better energy throughout the day.
And Buoy isn't just for people that go to the gym all the time and sweat a bunch. They actually offer a 35% lifetime discount for anyone that's struggling with chronic illnesses. Things like POTS, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, chronic migraines, and every autoimmune condition. They're really committed to making better hydration accessible to people who need it most.
I actually throw it in my coffee every morning because it's such an easy upgrade. You don't even taste it, but you're definitely gonna notice if you miss it.
If you're tired of playing hydration roulette and want something that actually supports your body, you've got to try Buoy. It's honestly one of the simplest ways to feel better faster.
Yeah, I'm excited. How did you get into this? Where did this passion come from?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So I didn't wake up feeling like, hey, I'm going to be a parenting coach. That's what I'm going to do. But I knew I always wanted to work with kids. I wanted to be a mom from the time I was tiny. I used to take my Cabbage Patch doll to the movie in a stroller and a car seat with a diaper bag and change the diaper mid movie, which drove my mom crazy because why'd she pay for the movie if I'm going to miss it? But the baby needed a change. So I was very determined. And I've always just admired kids. Kids can do so much and they often don't get the credit that they deserve. And I really truly believe that they deserve the respect that we deserve as adults. So I started my journey with a master's in early childhood education, teaching all day kindergarten, and then ended up being a mom myself. My husband's Canadian. I'm American. We met in Las Vegas, a whole story for another time. And I moved here and I wasn't able to work for a long time, being, an illegal, citizen, not a citizen quite yet. And so I just became passionate about every single one of my kids' milestones. Why were my kids not fighting with each other? Why were my kids going to bed easily? Why weren't they tantruming all over the place? What was I doing differently than other parents? Why was I enjoying it so much when so many parents I was around were complaining and struggling? And that passion really grew to me, drawing from my kindergarten experiences into my parenting experiences, becoming certified in positive discipline and developing the Parenting with Purpose method, which is my virtual coaching program where we help parents from around the world.
Awesome. So I know kind of one of the taglines is parenting without yelling, bribes, or burnout. So can you walk us through, maybe a day in the life, a day to day, like how that gets implemented for your clients and for the kids that they have?
Yeah. So, one of the things we have to remember is bits and pieces and tips and tricks are going to leave you lost and confused. And with the world that we live in, we have amazing resources, parenting books and podcasts and webinars and mini courses and memberships. And there's just so many things that you can do, but it often leaves parents really confused. And so where I come in and what I'm so passionate about doing is making it super simple. Parents don't have a lot of time, and we end up wasting a lot of time either battling with our kids or searching for that magical one thing that's going to solve every challenge. It's not complicated, but it is a system, and it's important to know that each piece of the puzzle is a critical piece of the puzzle before you reach sort of that transformation where your kids listen the first time, they cooperate, they act respectfully, they're not back talking, they're not saying, I hate you, they're doing their homework without battles, they're turning off their devices. It's all possible, but it's not possible with a random tip and trick. It's possible with a system. So when I work with parents, the biggest thing I challenge parents to ask themselves is, do I know why my kids are acting up? Do I know why they're pushing back? Do I know why they're fighting nonstop? Do I know why they're clinging to me? Do I really know why? And most of the time, we don't. We're guessing, like, oh, I think it's because I've been working, or I think it's because they're tired, or I think it's because they need attention, or maybe I've been nagging at them too much. But we don't really know why. And if we really look at the analogy of health, and let's say you have a really terrible stomach ache or a bad headache that keeps persisting, and we do things like pop an Advil or Tylenol to get rid of that pain, that headache, that symptom we're feeling. We're doing the exact same thing with our kids' behaviors day in and day out. We see something we don't like, it doesn't feel good, so we try and squash it, typically with yelling, reminders, empty threats, bribery, rewards, taking things away, all of these punishment tactics, which we can definitely talk about the difference between punishment and discipline. But when we get into that quick fix, let me just get rid of this symptom, let me stop this behavior, and we don't know why we have the headache, so it keeps coming back. We don't know why we have the behavior, it keeps coming back. That's where that burnout happens. So, in order to get to the result any parent wants, I teach you how to understand why is the behavior happening, where it's coming from, and what's the root cause. And I use a specific tool I developed known as the Behavior Needs Roadmap to help parents really systematically understand that and accomplish that.
It makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
right?
And I mean, root cause, right? You don't want to just cover up a behavior. You don't want to and I feel like that's ultimately where bad habits and bad routines come into play. And then it's, oh, every night they have their tablets, or every night it's ice cream after dinner because that's the only way to get them to eat their whole dinner, right? Or eat food in general. Yeah, it's a slippery slope with kids. And one of the things that I know for us, we developed a habit of, and it's been fine for our situation, like in retrospect, but Carson would go to school and get a nap. and wouldn't go to bed at night. And so, like, he didn't need a nap anymore, and it was 10:30, 11 o'clock, and this kid was not tired. And it's like, so then we allowed a little bit of TV time in his room at night because then my husband and I could have some solo time. Because otherwise, like, there was no time. And so it's just, I think, and sleep, a lot of parents let their kids into bed to let them sleep. Because if it was 3 a.m. every night and my kid was up again, like, I would probably let my kid into my bed too. We've been blessed, knock on wood, with really good sleepers that have never ended up in our bed. We are lucky with that. But I think it's just this like desperation moment that I think a lot of parents experience at some point. And that's where, okay, now it just this one time. Okay, now it's
Mhm.
every weekend. Now it's every day. Like it's,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
just
It's these little small band-aids to try and survive the day, and not realizing that every time we create this band-aid moment, we're getting really inconsistent. And so kids are born with two jobs, and every child are born with these jobs and these goals in life. And they want to accomplish these goals so badly, but they're only going to be able to accomplish them if, as parents, we have the skills to allow that to happen. So these two jobs are: one, they want to please you more than anything. They want to feel connected and bonded and please you, which is amazing. So we have these moments where we're like, oh, everything's perfect. This is great. Like, why can't we have all our days like this? That's what we want our parents to be able to achieve. But the challenge is their second job is contradictory, and it's to push boundaries until boundaries are found. So if we take your example of, okay, I'm exhausted, I'm going to let my kids come to my bed, or we're going to let him have a little bit of TV, what happens is that boundary goes what we call gray. So, most parents and everybody who's listening, if you ask yourselves, sometimes do I give in? Sometimes do I not? Sometimes do I give reminders? Sometimes do I not? Sometimes do I use bribes and give them ice cream? Sometimes I say no. Sometimes I yell. Sometimes I time out. If we're in this sometimes gray land, it's so confusing because the boundary is very unclear. And because they're born to push boundaries until they're found, we're just teaching them to push harder and longer and work more to find that boundary. So our kids are doing an A plus 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 job at their job, but they can't succeed. And so they can't stop until we learn how to set what we call 3 C's boundaries: concrete, clear, and consistent. And so if you ask yourself, okay, is my evening routine concrete, clear, and consistent? Are our meal times concrete, clear, and consistent? If they aren't, because we're giving in or we're changing or we're bribing or we're letting them play, then we know they're going to keep pushing. And so there is part of our answer. Why are they acting out? Part of it's going to be that our boundaries are gray and they're not 3 C's.
Makes a ton of sense. I mean, I just have a 5-month-old along with our 6-year-old, and so the last few months have been a little bit, you know, surviving in terms of more, TV time or, whatever, and, then when we go back to reset the boundaries, then there's the pushback and kind of just being upset, so that makes a lot of sense. I know that you work a lot with high achieving moms. What would you say is the biggest mistake that you see high achieving moms make in terms of their health and also just, within the family dynamic? Um,
Yeah.
I can think of probably a few, so I'm curious if you'll share them, what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think a couple of the things that come to mind for me is that parents who are high achieving want to succeed so much, but we sometimes just wait to say, I think I'll figure parenting out. I think we're going to figure it out. I think I'm going to get it. I think it's going to come together. And so they continue to blame themselves for the power struggles, the battles, the moments that don't feel great. And when we blame ourselves, we create this guilt. And when we create this guilt, we create stress on our bodies. And then we feel like we can't make time for ourselves because we haven't spent enough time with our kids and we've been too busy at work. And so then we let our own health go. And really, one of the things I like to say to parents is parenting's kind of that core piece. Once you become a parent, your health, your mental health, your relationships with your partner, your friends, relationship with yourself, your kids, it all actually starts with parenting. And if we don't figure that piece out, we're kind of scrambling in all the other areas because our time is wasted battling with our kids, which then creates the guilt. We don't have time for ourselves. We can't find that balance. We can't create that balance unless we really take time to make parenting a place to figure out. So I encourage parents, especially high achieving parents who value education, to think about parenting as a place to further your education. And what I would say is probably the most important job that we're ever doing, raising humans to survive in this world.
Mm. Yeah. I'd love to get into some things that you start your clients with, but I also want to just ask about divided families here. So, I mean, I think of, in a situation where you have a more dominant, wife or mother and type A, and things have to be this way, and grandma drives me nuts, and I can't control all the things. And then my husband doesn't align with me because he doesn't, believe that maybe these are the boundaries that need to be set, or this is how we need to address this. I think that's probably a little bit of a battle in, a lot of families. But then we also have the families that are divided, right? So where the child is going back and forth. And I have a couple friends going through this right now where their routines are totally flipped upside down. The child is completely different. It's like taking 2 days to get them back into their normal routine and normal behavior when they come back from the other parent's place. So I'd love to know, do you offer support for divided families as well, and coaching through those types of situations?
Yeah, absolutely. Any family dynamic at all is somebody that we can help. The important thing to remember is life's going to happen. There, it's not, doesn't need to be a negative that parents are splitting up. I come from, my parents got divorced when I was 6. I know in the moment it feels like your world, it has your world as a child has been totally turned upside down. But when done effectively, it's actually quite a positive thing for a child to have parents split up than stay together unhappy. I really truly believe that what you role model to your kids is that we matter as adults and we do need to take care of ourselves, and I think that's important. So a lot of times parents have guilt that it's going to be so detrimental to their child. I think where it becomes detrimental is inconsistency in both households. So one of the things that's important to remember is we can't force our kids to listen. We can't force them to cooperate. We can't force them to do things we want to do. That's what leaves us in these cycles. We also can't force our partner in the same home or our ex partner to do anything either. Like we can only control ourselves, but we have so much control within ourselves. And so if we think about one parent getting really consistent, one parent mastering that behavior needs roadmap to meet all their child's basic physical needs, their emotional needs, allowing them to reach their goals with these consistent boundaries, and really learning to parent in a disciplined way where we're not using shame and pain and timeouts and yelling and all that negative. If we can get one parent to really master that, that child feels seen, heard, understood. That child feels supported. That child has a safe place. That child knows that they can communicate openly with that parent and not fear they're going to get quote unquote in trouble or grounded or yelled at or any of those things that we want to try and avoid. The challenge is if it's inconsistent in both, then that child who's transitioning back from parent A to parent B, it's so inconsistent in one and then it's so inconsistent in the other, and they just feel like nobody's hearing them. Nobody sees what they need. Nobody gets what they're going through. And I think it's important to remember that if we can just get, whether you're together in one household with two different parenting styles, whether one's the overpowering tiger who, is too hard and too strict and really, you got to do it because I said so and I'm the adult, you need to respect me. Or we've got the permissive wet doormat parent where the kids are kind of walking all over the parent. You say, no, 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 no. Okay, fine. I can't deal with this. I'm going to just give in. Either way, if one can get consistent, it will create the results that you want, even if the other parent isn't.
All right, if you're dealing with water retention, you're waking up puffy, your ankles or your wrists are really swollen, or you can't get your rings off, and maybe you're even dragging throughout the day, no matter how much water you drink, there's actually a good chance that you're not actually hydrating properly.
Exactly, because water alone is not enough. You need electrolytes, you need sodium, potassium, magnesium, because those things actually pull water into your cells. Otherwise, you're basically just flushing it out and wondering why you're still tired, you're still bloated, and you're still sluggish.
But here's the thing, most electrolyte supplements out there aren't helping you in any way because a lot of them contain things like natural flavors, food dyes, and maltodextrin, which can irritate your gut. And these things can also spike your blood sugar when you're trying to heal.
That's why we both started using Buoy. It's super simple, just trace minerals and electrolytes in liquid form. No flavors, no colors, no sugar, no sweeteners, and you squeeze it into whatever you are drinking: water, coffee, tea, smoothies, you name it.
And it's clinically backed by science too. So studies have shown that buoy helps you hydrate better, 64% better, in fact. And that's data coming from key blood and urinary markers, not just marketing fluff. And honestly, you can feel the difference. I've had many clients tell me their digestion's improved, they have less headaches, and they're better energy throughout the day.
And Buoy isn't just for people that go to the gym all the time and sweat a bunch. They actually offer a 35% lifetime discount for anyone that's struggling with chronic illnesses. Things like POTS, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, chronic migraines, and every autoimmune condition. They're really committed to making better hydration accessible to people who need it most.
I actually throw it in my coffee every morning because it's such an easy upgrade. You don't even taste it, but you're definitely gonna notice if you miss it.
If you're tired of playing hydration roulette and want something that actually supports your body, you've got to try Buoy. It's honestly one of the simplest ways to feel better faster. I always know in our family because my children come and ask me for things and I say no, and then they'll go and ask dad. I'm like, he knows that I am the one that has
I
I am the bad guy. I'm the quote unquote disciplinary. Um, so in terms of kind of discipline, like on the topic of this, I know that you talk a lot around timeouts and kind of punishments don't work as well. Um, I've heard I think there's so many different viewpoints on this, and there's so many different. I've actually spoken with some psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists in terms of children and disciplining and how they approach it. And so, like, I'd love to hear your perspective. I'm very open to all perspectives because, again, I don't think any child is the same. I don't think any relationship is the same, right? But why do you kind of blanket that timeouts and punishments don't work? And in turn, what should we be doing?
Yeah. So the difference between punishment and discipline is so polar opposite, and a lot of times parents use these terms interchangeably. And if you even just look at the simple definition of punishment, it's anything that causes your child or anybody to feel blame, shame, or pain. And I'll use a timeout example to help put this into perspective. But we are using those reminders and timeouts and empty threats, and just, if you don't do this, I'm going to take this away, and if you don't knock that off, we're not going. And we're really overpowering our kids. We're basically saying, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, whatever I say goes. And we don't give them a voice. Now, we still need, as parents, to be the guide, the teacher, the leader. We need boundaries, they need expectations, they need consequences. But when done in a disciplinarian fashion, which simply means teach and train, we aren't making our kids feel badly about their behaviors. We're focusing on the behavior itself, not the child. So every time you slip into punishments, your kids feel badly. Mom and dad don't love me. I'm always in trouble. My brother or sister is loved more because they're not yelled at as much. And we're always focusing on the child when we use punishment. When we use discipline, we're focusing on the behavior, teaching them the skills to do better next time. So let's say your child does something that you are not happy with. I remember one time and one time only, I put my toddler, who's now 16 and 6 feet tall and a size 12 shoe, but I put him in timeout. He was doing something. I can't even remember what it is. This is what happens as parents. We get so triggered by probably our own things and our own stresses that in the moment, we just need it to stop. Like, we just need the behavior to stop, and we'll do whatever we can to stop it, which is why we tend to go to those short-term punishment tactics. But in that moment, I remember him in his little chubby legs and his little diaper, and he had a little t-shirt on, and he was doing something, and I wasn't okay with it. And I said, Hudson, you need to sit by the closet door until I tell you to come, to stand up. Like, you need to sit there and you need to wait because this is not okay. And I just kept putting him back there and putting him back there. And I wasn't yelling and I wasn't mad at him, but I kept putting him back there, and he was crying and he was so upset and he was so frustrated and he was so hurt by this whole dynamic that was happening. And then I left the room, and I thought, I remember I broke down in tears. It was so profound, this one moment where I was like, what actually went on in that moment? What did I just teach Hudson? Did I teach him to not do that behavior that I'm not wanting? No. All I taught him was, I'm bigger, I'm stronger. If I don't like what you're doing, I can control you. I can force you to do what I want you to do. And you need to just succumb to that. But now, when that's all said and done, all I've done is weakened his trust, weakened his bond with me. I've made him feel small. I haven't heard his voice or what he needs. I've really just tried to control him. But now, fast forward 1, 2, 3, 5 days, the same behavior is going to come back because nothing helped him learn how to do better in that moment. And so over time, when you punish and punish and punish, it doesn't fix the behaviors, which is why we have parents in our program with 22-year-olds who are university students in high achieving universities. Because if you don't learn how to set a boundary and teach a child to effectively learn how to do better, then those toddler moments go into teen moments, which go into adult moments. And they never effectively learn how to become great self managers, to really learn how to make great choices for themselves. They're always waiting until they're in trouble, or they're going to lie and sneak and hide to avoid getting in trouble. But we're not helping our kids become the best version of ourselves. And that is why when we punish, our relationship and our connection is affected, and we don't actually help them be their best selves. And so I really am a firm believer that disciplining is necessary, and we definitely need those consequences and those expectations. But there's a way to do it that brings you closer to your kids, that helps build their independence and responsibility, but also doesn't leave you feeling like you're a bad mom or you've been mean or harsh, because when you discipline, you never feel like that. I don't have to feel like that, but I can still set consequences around devices and social media. And they can learn how to really self manage it from those experiences.
Could you walk us through, like, so you gave the scenario of here's how it went, and I didn't teach him anything, to how you would coach somebody through a similar situation now,
Yeah.
just high level.
Yeah. So let's do like a toddler or a young school age kid. Let's use spilled milk. Classic spilled milk at the table, and we'll go through how a punishment parent might respond and a disciplined parent might respond. So let's end of day, tired, exhausted. You got dinner finally on the table. All you want is for your kids just to sit and eat and get through that moment so that you can have a few seconds to put your feet up, hopefully at the end of the day. And without doubt, the milk spills, topples over, it's splattering everywhere. You know, it's going to stink if we don't get it up properly. It's stressful in that moment. A punishment parent is going to react in that moment. So they're going to sound something like, ugh, why do you always have to do that every single night? There's always a mess. There's always a spill. Can't we just, I see your face. Can't we just sit through the dinner table and get through this? I honestly can't even, I can't deal with this right now. I just can't. Maybe you send them to timeout. Maybe you don't. Okay. That's the punishment parent. In that moment, nothing happened about the spilled milk itself. So, either in that scenario, your child truly had an accident and knocked it over and wasn't fooling around at the table. And the accident, now what we've done is taught them that mistakes and accidents aren't okay, that they need to be perfect, that they're not doing anything right. Or when they make a mistake, it actually affects me as the mom. And so they feel unsafe, and they lack that security in us because we've flown off the handle. Or the second part of that equation is your kids do not have mealtime boundaries. So they're fooling around, they're up and down, they're acting out, they're reaching, they're all over the place. And again, not your child's fault. We haven't taught 3C's boundaries around what happens when you start fooling around at the table. What are the boundaries when you're up and down? And if we don't take the time to do that, it's really not their fault because we're reinforcing. I'm going to keep reminding, so you don't need to listen. I'm going to give multiple chances, so you need to keep pushing. And so our kids are trying to navigate this really inconsistent, confusing world. If you fast forward to the disciplined parent, we are not going to react. We're going to do our very best. And it takes time and practice. And again, when you have all the pieces in place, your kids are listening more, they're cooperating more, they're sleeping better. So it's easier for you not to fly off the handle. So we're going to respond without reacting, without emotion, because we're actually not upset with our kids. We're disappointed in the fact that we have to clean up something is really it. Let's stay in that moment. So it would sound something like, gosh, everybody has mistakes. I spill things sometimes. Would you like to clean it up on your own? Or would you like my help? Would you like to use this sponge or would you like to use this rag? Giving some choice to give power, to give control. We're not just letting it go, but in that moment, we're now teaching our kids, hey, when I drop a granola wrapper, I pick it up, I throw it away. When I spill something, I clean it up. Your kids don't have to fear you for having a mistake. If the parent knows that their kids are fooling around at the table every single night, that's where we need to raise our hand and say, how am I going to get the help to learn the skills to avoid these cycles so we can set everybody up for our success, our kids and ourselves?
I need your program. I think I've
So,
learned there.
and I'd be curious because I try some things and I'd be curious your feedback on it because I have a very strong-willed daughter. And I know we have in some of the questions to chat through, like, what about strong-willed kids? Because I think that there are. My son is a completely different child than my daughter is. He is kind and gentle and sweet and caring and loving. And my daughter is like a child version of a sociopath. And I love her and she's the sweetest thing, but like she is crazy. And so she pushes, and she'll be doing something like she'll take a bat and hit it against the wall a bunch of times. And I'm like, Taylor, not okay. Like, we don't hit the wall. It's going to hurt the wall. We don't use bats inside. And then she'll look at me as she's doing it again. And it's like, okay, I need you to go sit on the stairs. And I watch her the whole time as she's on the stairs. And then after like 20, 30 seconds, I'll go over, hey, do you know why I had you sit on the stairs? And then I have her try and like have a conversation with me ultimately of, do you understand why I'm upset? Like, do you comprehend what's going on? And she'll usually be crying, but like, you told me to stop, I didn't stop. Yes. Do you understand and like more so trying to talk through it ultimately with her and have it be immediate in terms of you did like you did what I asked you not to do. Here's the consequence, and then let's talk about why it was a problem. And then I always end it with like, I want you to know I always love you. I will always love you no matter what. But it makes me upset when you don't listen to things that I ask you not to do, and then you do them again. So yes, there I think is a consequence and like quote unquote a timeout. Um, but curious, like, is that a form of discipline that would be over the line then, or like not as it yeah, feedback.
No, I love that you're putting yourself out there for me to give you some advice and to kind of try and coach through that. So that's a great example. I think everybody who's listening has been in that moment where they're telling their kids to stop. They look them in the face and they're like, I'm just going to do this anyway because she's doing her A+ job of testing her boundaries. We've worked with thousands of parents who say they have strong-willed kids, and then when they finish working with us, they're like, oh, I guess they weren't strong willed. My parenting was reinforcing that behavior. And so it is, we don't want to squash that strong willed leadership, speak your opinion. Those are great things and attributes that we want to help flourish. But in that moment, what she says to herself is, okay, I need to test the boundaries because I push boundaries till they're found. She said, I need to stop doing this. But the way that you set it up, it's like, or what? Like she doesn't know. It's like mom just told me I need to stop, so I just need to listen all the time. And I have to be a quote unquote good listener, which what is a good listener? Is it just somebody who does exactly what we want them to do every second we tell them? So what we want to do in that moment, and a tool you guys can start using right now, is language is going to be one of the biggest things that will change your parenting. And we often use language that works against us. For example, the word if might be the most detrimental 2-letter word that parents use. It sounds like, if you don't do that, I'm taking this away. If you do that one more time, we're not going to the birthday party. If you don't eat your dinner, I'm not giving you dessert. It's like ifs are flying all over the place. And what we do in that moment is we say to our kids, okay, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I get to take away what I want to take away. So let's just see who's bigger and stronger here. It is a power struggle floodgate. So as soon as you say if, your kids' antennas are like ding, 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 ding. Ooh, let's test this one. So I want you to shift from if to when. When you finish your dinner, then we're starting dessert. But I wouldn't use dessert as a reward. We can talk about that too. But when you're finished your homework, then you can use your device. When you're ready for bed, then we can start your books. It gives your kids this sense of autonomy and control. and we put it back on your kids. So they're like, oh, well, when my shoes are on, then we're going to the park. If my shoes aren't on, then I guess we're not going. Instead of, if you don't put your shoes on, we're not going, you make it about you. But a simple language shift makes it about them. And so, in your exact moment of the bat, to me, that's sort of a, we need to stop this pretty quickly. A bat against a wall is not okay. So, you're going to use the language either or. Either you hold the bat properly, or when you choose to hit it, the bat's going away. Your choice. She hits one more time. No problem. I see you're not able to use the bat right now. We'll try again another time. Then you're just going to take it and put it away. You have set a very clear boundary of, this is either what we're going to do with the bat, or when this happens, the bat goes away. When she makes that choice to hit again, she also builds a lot of trust because you said that that was going to happen, or it was going to go away. She learns, ooh, when I make a choice with my behavior, I don't like the outcome. I would have rather had the bat. But it also is about her learning to make a choice versus you putting her on the stair. And there really wasn't a place for her to learn how to do better. It was just, you need to stop because I told you to stop. Do you see the difference?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So just to follow that up, what if then she's like laying on the floor screaming and losing her mind because the bat's not been taken away?
Mhm. Great question.
Years on,
Amazing.
well, that's what she does, right? Like
Yeah, Tay, yeah. I
she's
mean, the funny thing about Tay is that, like, when I get upset with her, she wants me more. Like, she wants to please me, she wants love from me, and it's funny because, like, I give her lots and lots of love. She's literally my attachment. But yeah, when I get upset, she, like, tries to cling to me even harder, crying,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, she doesn't as much lately throw tantrums. It's more clinginess if she sees that I'm upset with her.
Yeah.
or just for anyone listening who's like,
Yeah,
yeah, my
who has the
child is in the
tantrum.
middle of the grocery store now, you know,
Mhm,
wailing on the floor. I luckily don't have one of those, but I have friends that have
Mhm.
them. So I'm just be curious because you've now set up the structure for boundaries and the either or, but as they're learning this, because I'm sure there's a shifting period, right? Where kids, when we're setting clear boundaries, they're like, oh, what's going on here? Probably, you know? So how would you coach through that? I mean, obviously, if you're in a public place, it's probably different than maybe when you're at home.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk through that a bit. First, when your child becomes more clingy to you when you're using those punishment tactics, that's because they feel like their behavior upset you. Our kids' behaviors really shouldn't upset us. It shouldn't make us treat them a different way. They should, that what happens is that's why it weakens our bond and relationship. So she now wants to make it right. She wants to make you feel better. She wants to make you okay. She wants to make you know, and then it's putting a lot of responsibility on a child for the situation that happened when really it was just about the bat. But we put too many emotions into that. So that's just kind of a side note on that piece. When we look at then a child laying themselves on the floor, clicking, screaming, having a tantrum, having a meltdown, and let's talk about the difference of those, that we have to know why the behavior is truly happening. And so if we go back and rewind to that behavior needs roadmap that I talked about, if each box isn't checked on that roadmap, so basic needs of sleep, nutrition, security, transitions, the emotional needs of power and attention, their goals being met to be able to please you and know what your boundaries are, and you know how to set boundaries and follow through with discipline, we can't expect them to listen, cooperate, do the things we want them to do because they're trying to get their needs met so desperately and they don't know how. So they typically act out or show unwanted behaviors. So everybody just needs to know that everything we're implementing and talking about today are great strategies and tools. But if the roadmap is not met, we're still not in a place to set our kids up to do what we want them to do in the way that we want them to do. So that just, an important piece to remember. When we look at the why behind the behavior, when a child has an outburst, it could be a young child, kicking and screaming on the floor. It could be an older child saying, I hate you, you're the worst parent ever, and slamming their door, or refusing to come home at night. Those are all outbursts, just in different ages and stages. And so that's what's really important for parents to know. It doesn't matter if you have a 1 year old or a 22-year-old, any parent with any child of any age needs to know these things. And it works regardless of your child's age. And so when we look at tantrums and meltdowns, we again use them interchangeably, typically, like punishment and discipline, and it backfires on us. So, tantrums and meltdowns have the same symptoms. They look the same. So, it could be that crying, screaming, kicking, laying on the floor. It could be the back talking, slamming the door, saying, I hate you. And you're like, shoot, well, is it a tantrum or is it a meltdown? If you don't know what the behavior is, you're going to respond or react in a way that could make that behavior escalate. So when parents say to me, well, they're having 2 hour tantrums, it's lasting an hour. It's like they just don't give up. They're probably having the alternate behavior, and you're responding in a way to the behavior you think it is, and it's making it worse. So the symptoms are going to be the same. The root cause of a tantrum and a meltdown differ. So if we look at the root cause of a tantrum, it's a child who's just really unhappy with the outcome. They're unhappy that that bat got taken away. They're unhappy that you didn't say yes to the treat at the grocery store. They want to let you know how unhappy they are with the situation, so they have that tantrum. The root cause of a meltdown is really true physical emotional overwhelm. So envision a pitcher of water that is full to the top, and you just keep filling it and filling it and filling it. It just can't take it anymore. That is a child who's overtired, they're over hungry, they're overstimulated. It's been too many clothes you're asking them to try on and see if they still fit. It's been too many errands on a Sunday. Their needs are not met, they're overwhelmed, and then they're going to have a physical, emotional overwhelm outburst. So, in those moments, we need to respond differently. And so, if you have a overtired child, then you take them to the grocery store and then you just say, no, I'm not buying you something. Well, we got a big recipe for a disaster. But if you're a parent who can master that roadmap and sleeps under control and every nutrition and meal times are under control and everything's checked off, and then you go to the grocery store and they start to have a tantrum because you know they're unhappy that you said no on the candy, you now have the ability to say, gosh, I know why they're upset. Everything else is checked. They really just want this candy. I need to figure out how I'm going to set my boundary in advance. So when I come to the grocery store, we don't have these issues. So that's the full kind of walkthrough on what we would want to do to kind of set things up for the parents who's in the grocery store right this second, sweating and losing their mind because they're so embarrassed, everybody's staring at them. You need to do what's going to work for you in that moment. Some parents can let their child sit and cry in the cart and they can calmly shop and finish. I would say either we, calm down and I'll finish the shop or we can go. I would literally probably pick my child up and leave and come back to the store on my own. But there isn't a right or wrong there. It's just we don't want to keep reacting. Knock it off. Stop crying. If you're going to keep acting like that, we're not going to. And then we start taking away more things. You're escalating it. You need to let them have their feelings, or you need to make your boundary that you're going to leave and move on in that moment so that you can then think about how you want to handle it properly.
Yeah. I guess I'm sure routines play a really large role here too,
Mm,
because I'm in the stage right now with my daughter where like we haven't removed the nap, but she could probably still benefit from a nap most days. But like we're trying to not have, but then she goes to bed too late. And so like we know that 2 to 4 p.m. time frame for her now is just rough. Like
mm,
she's tired. She has a short fuse. If we're out and about or doing too much, like there are many more meltdowns
mm,
or tantrums or, because she's tired and we realize that. Like,
mm,
and, weekends are hard because we have a lot going on usually and it's a lot of running around and stuff like that. And the 20-minute car nap is great now because it's like, it's all she really
yeah.
needs. Then she can go to bed at night. So how do you feel about it? Seems like consistency is a big piece of this and having solid routines with kids and sleep times and wake times and meal times and I think our little humans are just like us. They need routine, they need consistency, their bodies need it. um is that another piece that I'm assuming you guys probably cover with families?
Yeah, a huge, huge piece. And a lot of our parents that come to us are like, Tia, but I don't like to be structured. I'm not a structured person. And I'm like, okay, we'll work with you. So I'm not looking for every family to be exactly like the next family. We want to find routines and structure and stability that work for each family based on their situation and their goals and their lifestyle. But consistency and routine are really, really important. And if we look at that definition of discipline again, so often what parents think when we look at this idea about consistency is we think, we see an unwanted behavior, we got to stop it. We see something, we got to consequence it. We see something, they've got to learn a lesson. And we think that that's what true parenting is. But actually, when you're a disciplined parent, you are disciplining from morning to night. So part of your discipline is teaching them to have consistent routines. How do you get up in the morning? How do you get dressed, make your bed, brush your teeth, handle getting your backpack ready? That's disciplining. But we have to remember disciplining 90% of it is proactive. It's setting that stage for success. It's teaching those routines, teaching those boundaries, teaching them to do things independently. And about 10% is, hey, something happened we don't really like. It's not what we want to have repeating. Now, how am I going to teach a life lesson and in that teaching format so they can do better next time? And so, we're disciplined ourselves. We show up for work, we have a schedule, we wake up, we take care of ourselves, we exercise. We're doing things that require discipline. And I think where parents sometimes miss the boat because we have this paradigm from our own childhood and our own upbringing that you do what your parents tell you to do so you don't get in trouble. And if I do something wrong, there's going to be a consequence. Instead of just overall, how do we discipline to really help raise these humans to be the best they can be in all areas outside of an unwanted behavior or action?
Yeah, I love that. And I think, even just fast forwarding to adult life, that's so much of what we need too, right? In our day-to-day is the structure and the discipline. And for me personally, I was actually homeschooled. And so my mom was very regimented with routine. I got up every morning, certain things had to be done by 9 a.m. That was the time we were sitting down at, the table. And if things weren't accomplished because I didn't, listen or follow through or whatever the case might be, then there was on the backside, okay, you're not going to go outside and play with your friends until you go back and finish those chores that then were not done. So I think about that too, just and how that's helped me and benefited me in the way that I time block my day. I think about all the things that have to get done. And so yeah, this has been really good. I wanted to touch on one more thing and um kind of as we start to wrap up here, you've obviously worked with thousands of women. You're brilliant. What would you say the top two shifts are that have led to the biggest breakthroughs for parents, in parenting, but also just in their personal space?
Yeah. The first is giving them finally coming to the point where you realize you're not supposed to figure it out on your own. Like the biggest breakthrough is I'm not a failure. I don't have to expect that I'm just going to figure this out and I can learn the skills. I can learn the skills and I can be the parent I want to be because everybody's capable of it. I always say my clients aren't special. I mean, I think that each and every one of them is amazing and I love working with each of them. They come to us so upset and so frustrated and they leave feeling, I had a mom yesterday who graduated and she said, "We have our evenings back. Our kids go to bed at 6:30. My husband and I pour a glass of wine. Like I never thought this would happen." And so seeing that transition is so great. And you have to be able to recognize it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to learn these skills. The second biggest, aha moment for parents to have the breakthrough is it's not my kid's responsibility and it's not my kid's fault. We can't put the responsibility on our kids to change what they're doing if we're not changing what we're doing. We keep wanting our kids to do better and to listen and to do the things we need them to do, but yet we're showing up doing the exact same things that are reinforcing them not to do the things that we want. And so when parents are finally like, ugh, I have been trying to force my kids, I have been trying to battle it out with them, I now can shift what I'm doing and see how it automatically shifts my child's behavior. And when you have all the pieces and a clear step by step plan and you're able to meet those needs, you get to a place where you're like, oh my gosh, my kids were just waiting for me to learn these skills, to fix these things in the way I was showing up. And they were ready for it. Like they shift so quickly. It's amazing to see. So I think those are the two biggest aha light bulb moments that allow parents to have that transformation.
I love that. Takes away a lot of the guilt and shame because I know so many people, especially just, transitioning from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2. Like I know after they say after 2, it's just like, yeah, it's just another number, like whatever.
Mhm.
But I think the 0 to 1 transition and then the 1 to 2 are probably the hardest because, there's so many things that are happening in those phases. And, there's nobody that essentially has taught you. I know a therapist, she mentioned something one time we were podcasting with her, and she's like, I mean, the reality is like we all mess up our kids in some way, shape, or form. We don't intend to, we don't mean to, but some of that is either learned behavior from our childhood or family dynamics that pass down to us. So I couldn't agree more in terms of finding community, asking for support, recognizing that, there are experts out there that can help you through these seasons of life. So let's wrap it up. Let our listeners know where they can find you, connect with you, learn more about your programs, your community, and all the good things that you have going on with
Yeah.
Parenting with Purpose.
Yeah, I would love to help support anybody who's looking for support in whatever realm that is. And today I wanted to offer everybody a chance to access our, battle free parenting bundle. I've put together a special bundle for parents to make it simple and easy, giving them sort of a robust way to start making some changes with some things that are accessible to everybody. So if you're a parent who's exhausted, frustrated, feeling like the cycles are continuing, you're going to bed at night, scrolling Instagram, looking for tips and tricks, and you really want to get to a place where your kids feel connected and bonded and listen, then I want you to take advantage of this bundle. I'm going to offer an opportunity to download one of our top tools to build listening, connection, and bond, which really helps to start fill up those emotional needs, those power and attention buckets that are on that roadmap. So let's start checking off some of those boxes. So that'll be a really important thing to do. And it only takes 10 minutes a day. It's a simple 5 ingredient protocol. It takes 10 minutes a day. So everybody can find 10 minutes. And the second thing I want to offer is a chance to book a breakthrough session with us. Let's talk about your challenges, your roadmap, where the gaps and the holes are, and really give you a 90-day plan on what you can do right now to start filling those gaps and holes. So if you head on over to Instagram, Tia Parenting Coach, and DM us the word revival for the podcast today, that'll help us all stay on track there. And we're going to give you instant access to both of those things in that bundle.